Patch 7.4 released on December 16th, and it was a momentous occasion for FF14 players. New raids, trials, and dungeons. More story to sink our teeth into, which for many is the primary highlight of all. But when players began to play the patch themselves, they noticed something strange. G'raha Tia sounded different, odd. There had been no explanation outside of the game and no reason within the game for such a shift. Had Jonathan Bailey, his longtime voice actor turned Hollywood celebrity, dropped the role and resultingly been replaced after so much time and effort invested into it, or is something else going on? Let's recap the sequence of events and talk about it in more depth. As an aside, if you like discussions and dives into FF14's community, please do consider subscribing, I really do appreciate it. So, Jonathan Bailey has been voicing G'raha Tia since Stormblood back in 2017, and in Shadowbringers would take the centre stage as one of the main players in the expansion, become a regular, and a very beloved part of the supporting cast ever since. At the time, he was working as an actor in theatre. The same year he joined FF14, he was performing alongside Ian McKellen in King Lear and receiving rave reviews in newspapers for the show he put on. But it was fair to say that he wasn't considered mainstream by any means, a working actor taking jobs as and when they presented themselves. That very much has changed in the 8 years since he took on the role, being cast in the Netflix series Bridgerton in 2020, which was a huge breakout success for him. That show attained upwards of 180 million views, and being the sexy man character in a sexy show being put in front of that many eyeballs certainly does a bit feel stock. He has since starred in both of the Wicked movies as well as the new entry in the Jurassic World series, and just this year was voted People magazine's sexiest man alive. It's fair to say he has shifted from a working actor to be a man poised to become a Hollywood mainstay, with the filmography and public stock to support that. He's a star now. That might make you think, yeah, of course he dropped the voice acting role in a Japanese MMORPG. But I don't believe it's that simple. He's a lover of theatre and of gaming and has cited FF14 as having almost Shakespearean writing. It's in his wheelhouse, personally speaking. He clearly loves the role, and whenever he's given the opportunity to speak on it publicly, you can always see that he does so with a sense of adoration. He enjoys playing G'raha Tia, it means something to him. Listen to the way he talks about this role for a second in this BAFTA interview, and the lengths he's happy to go to in order to stay involved.
The work, the brilliant, the writing is, it's almost like Shakespearean. This is like a line. This is just a line that G'raha Tia says. We'll travel the lands, cross the seas, and take to the skies upon the eternal wind, and it will be magnificent. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, I'm aware of how important this character is to so many people. I was so determined to not step away from this character that when I was doing Company, I had to record this in the day for about a week, doing 8 shows a night, and my tongue inflamed.
I don't believe that fame, money, or time are the primary considerations for a successful artist who enjoys the role they have that much when it comes to dropping it. But with all those facts in mind, it's fair to say there's something strange happening in patch 7.4. G'raha Tia is a voiced character here, but he sounds different. I'm not the only one who clocked onto it. In fact, the reason I saw this in the first place was due to the reactions of friends playing through the story. It could be him with some kind of sore throat, sickness, bad equipment, or a mixture of the above if you really squint. Equally, it could be a case that he has gracefully dropped out or ran into a scheduling conflict and been unable to film and has been replaced. But nobody is speaking about it and confirming either way. Square Enix has said nothing, and his publicist has said nothing. Both of these are understandable, and in a lot of cases professional, but this silence has led fans to speculate about what's going on. Posts on discussion forums about this are receiving hundreds of replies, including a mixture of potential reasons for why he may either be absent or sounding a bit odd. Many distraught fans are upset that their favourite character has seemingly changed, and there's a lot of speculation going around. Some of the top speculative posts I've seen talk about either him being fully booked or his voice being off due to other roles. It's true that he's a very busy actor at the moment, but seemingly none of those have been impeded by such noticeable audio issues. Jurassic World was a big deal for him, but it wrapped up filming in autumn of 2024, over an entire year ago. These patches do not voice record an entire year in advance, though they definitely do have a lead time of at least a few months. Wicked wrapped up quite a while ago too, all the way back in early 2024, and it's likely that despite being on an extended press tour for the movie, this hasn't majorly affected his voice either. Earlier this year, throughout the spring, he did star in the play Richard II across a couple of months, and it's entirely possible that if he was recording FF14 at the same time these live performances were happening, that may have resulted in a hoarse voice. With that said, numerous reports from both FF14 players who attended many showings themselves and non-players, none of those seem to imply that he ever sounded sick or had any struggles with his voice on stage during this period. Just a few weeks ago, he was on one of the 6 million American late-night talk shows too, and during this period he sounded perfectly healthy and, more importantly, just like his normal self. All of this is to say that whilst it is absolutely entirely possible that his voice could have been off whilst recording these lines, affecting the overall delivery, he is a very public man with a storied history of performances and interviews across the past 2 years, and it's difficult to pinpoint any particular moment that could easily line up and support that theory. He has successfully juggled fame, movie shoots, theatre performances, and public appearances alongside his FF14 voice acting for such a long time without any real noticeable gap or quality shift. It's tough to say, basically. There have been reports of Bailey having taken a step away from acting more recently in the press to focus on his charity, the Shameless Fund, an effort to raise money in support of LGBTQ individuals and fight against the oppression and discrimination they receive on a rising daily basis. But that has been confirmed as a misquote in a recent Esquire interview by the man himself. He's taking a short break whilst he focuses on this, but he expects to be back to working full force in 2026. Does this short potential hiatus include recurring jobs like FF14? Well, maybe, but I feel that if that were the case, a statement would have been issued well in advance of this uproar occurring by Square Enix. A little post on the forums would have done a lot to alleviate the concerns of those invested if it were a temporary short hiatus being covered by another voice actor. Some have claimed that Jonathan Bailey is now too famous for the role, and whilst it's true that off the top of my head he is the most famous cast member and likely has the most hectic schedule, he has been this way for near enough half a decade. He didn't suddenly become a celebrity in 2025, he maintained the role throughout both Endwalker and Dawntrail, 2 expansions and their subsequent patches, despite being a very famous man with a very busy schedule. Whilst it's entirely possible that something this year has come as the tipping point, it would certainly come as a bit of a surprise in my opinion, especially when we consider his aforementioned enthusiasm for the role and the level of emotional investment he likely has after working it for so many years without fail. It could also be a short-term recast, as I mentioned before. If the voice actor is utterly unavailable for a patch, there are a few options. Exclude them entirely from that patch intentionally, ensure they aren't voiced, recast them, or run into a weird situation where some characters are voiced and others aren't. Considering FF14 is an international game with a primarily Japanese development team, this enters the realm of plausibility fairly quickly. I suppose it's important to make clear that we don't really know. We can't guess at somebody's personal feelings or intentions, and there is absolutely a world where he had a change of heart, needed a fresh start, and wanted to step away from the role completely. That might well be the world we live in right now. With that said, if it were the case, I feel he would have said something publicly in some interview or on some sponsored video on the FF14 channel. He knows he plays a beloved character that means a lot to many, and he has publicly reiterated many times that he holds that role with a sense of gravity and importance. Disappearing into the shadows without a word doesn't sound like the kind of thing somebody with that attitude would do. Square Enix certainly doesn't need the bad press either after the post-release expansion blender they've been in. My theory is a pretty simple one. It is him, rather than a recast, purely because it sounds like more of a likely story that he'd have an off patch and keep quiet about it, than silently leave the role entirely. I can't even imagine the level of shame it would take a famous actor to say immediately after voicing a role, "Yeah, I phoned that in," or "Yeah, I didn't do a good job this time around." Arguably doing so would border on unprofessional, so it lines up more closely with silence that we've seen from Square Enix and his publicist both. He has likely been travelling often, and for extended periods this year owing to his work, and scheduling could have just been particularly difficult this time around. So, instead of getting him into a studio to record his lines, they had him record from either his own setup or one they sent to him for the work and allowed him to mail in his recordings. This wouldn't be the first time Square Enix has done this for a major role in FF14 either. You might remember Y'shtola sounding like she was recording from a cupboard earlier this expansion, which was because she probably was. Many have speculated that this is because of the baby she had around that time window, and whilst on maternity leave, recorded voice lines for Dawntrail from home, then re-recorded them after the fact in the studio to fix them up. A reasonable answer to what at first seemed like a bizarre problem. My expectation is that this is similar. He didn't get the opportunity to record at the studio for whatever reason, wasn't able to give the performance he would have liked, and there's a chance it receives adjustments later down the road. If this future timeline is the case, it would support why nothing has been said, and is to me, personally, completely reasonable. I did reach out to Jonathan Bailey's publicist for comment, though, of course, I'm not expecting a response because I am, for all intents and purposes, a literal who. But, according to a recent Kotaku article on the subject, a representative of Bailey told Kotaku that he quote-unquote won't be commenting or participating in any interviews regarding FF14 at this time. Stay strong, I guess, Grahatia stans? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do consider supporting my Patreon or becoming a YouTube member like these fine folks. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.